Hello, I'm Sally Brown and this is my friend and colleague Kay Sample, and as part of the work we're doing for Maynooth University we want to talk to you about why authentic assessment is important. Kay.
Okay, thanks Sally. Well, what do we mean by authentic assessment? Well, we've been thinking an awful lot about the principle of authenticity in assessment. That is, how far and in what ways we can try to make the assessment tasks we set for our students meaningful, worthwhile and valuable to students beyond the thing of getting marks. So authenticity is a really useful idea here because it helps us think about the long-term value of the tasks we set and helps us to stimulate genuine high-order learning where students really get to grips with complex ideas and grasp them so thoroughly they can apply them to novel situations, rather than unthinkingly rote learning or cramming or gathering pre-packaged information simply to give back to assessors. So that in that instance they're just going through the motions or they're just juggling formulae just because the question triggers them to do it. Now, people often think of realism, don't they, Sally, when they think of authentic assessment. So students are doing things which have a realistic context or they address a plausible audience. So they're not just for the assessor. And of course, this way of thinking clearly links to employability, and students sense that they're learning to be work ready, so they're gaining practical skills and knowledge. And there's lots of really fantastic work going on in Ireland by our friend and colleague Geraldine O'Neill, who's got a wonderful Irish Forum research project which is looking at the challenges of authentic assessment when it's associated purely with work integrated learning. That is, when students are learning practically off campus, or they're on work placements or they're in practice settings. But we want to suggest that the principle of authenticity can helpfully be much broader than this, and it can be really useful to think about when designing any assessment. So during the pandemic, Sally and I came up with a really useful sort of blueprint to help busy practitioners to design more authentic tasks. So Sally, do you want to outline that now?
We came across people who were saying, yes, it's all very well, Sally and Kay, but in order to design these, we have to start from scratch every time. And isn't it an awfully time-consuming process? So Kay and I have come up with what we call the 6-stage approach. And it starts from the basic principle that if you go to the learning outcomes, if they're anything like decent learning outcomes, they contain some really valuable, buzzy, powerful verbs. So those verbs might be things like interpret or review or set up or things like that. So if we start with the learning outcomes and we extrapolate from them the verbs, and then we start saying those verbs are helping us design the tasks, what the tasks are telling the students do. The next stage on from that is to say, well, if they're going to interpret something or review something, what is it they're going to interpret? Complex and sometimes incomplete information and competing complex ideas, or review data from a variety of settings, or whatever else it is. So we've got the learning outcome, the verb, and then the object. And then that leads to some activity on their behalf. That is the production of an outcome or an achievement. Now, this could be on their behalf, it could be a reflective commentary, or it could be a report, or it could be a series of data tables. It could be all sorts of different kinds of things that they are doing to show that they've grasped the information and they can demonstrate it. That's terrific, and what we would always argue that they need to kick them off on that process, an authentic scenario or a realistic kind of context that they could work with. So that's the 5th thing, although actually probably the 1st thing. And then they need what we call range statements. That is, this is what kind of thing we're expecting you to do, so that the students have some idea. So this is going to be a piece of audio that's no more than 3 minutes or something like that. Now, what we say is, if you come up with those authentic scenarios, realistic contexts, they're relatively easy for disciplinary staff to write because that's all about what they're actually doing. And if you want to reuse these different kinds of authentic assessment, what you can do is you can either change the context and keep the activities pretty much the same, Or you can change the activities and use the realistic scenario or authentic context again, but with different activities you're asking them to do. And what we're really keen to do is to make sure that every element of the authentic assessment is then going to be tied back to what you've said in the course documentation you expect them to be able to do, and that's going to make the students, that's going to make you as staff, that's going to make the external scrutineers, like your quality people, very happy, because it's perfectly clear that they've achieved it. And do you know what? With an awful lot of these authentic examples, then you're going to find that students actually quite enjoy doing them. Now, Kate, over the last couple of years, we've accumulated lots of examples of how the students and the staff involved with it can see this work in practice, and they'll find those on my website in the form of
sallybrown.net,
which is the website address, and on that you'll find various compendia and also some special guest blogs, as well as the papers around which this whole series of activities is based.
So look out for the paper, particularly called Designing Good Assessments, Good Assignment Writing, and that will give you the task generator, and then look out for the rest of the compendia. There's 4 at the moment, but probably we might get some more.
En route more. Thank you very much.